Hi there, back to the plate, back to the Phaedo, and I'm still fighting the wind in this room, so I'm thinking you can hear me. So the next section is the question, is there life after death? Particularly, do we have any arguments for that? So soon as Socrates ends his comments about how if we didn't have a body, we'd be able to be wise, and that's why there's great hope that after we die, we will live, we still will be around, will exist, and will be able to achieve the wisdom we've always tried to get. Cebes jumps in and says this: in what concerns the soul, men are apt to be incredulous. That means not to believe very much. They fear that when she has left the body, her place may be nowhere, and that on the very day of death she may perish and come to an end. Immediately on her release from the body, issuing forth dispersed like smoke or air, or in her flight, vanishing away into nothingness. Okay, so the idea that the soul, if it leaves the body, will just disappear, blow away. If she could only be collected into herself after she has obtained release from the evils of which you are speaking, namely the body, there would be good reason to hope, Socrates, that what you say is true. But surely it requires a great deal of argument and many proofs to show that when the man is dead, his soul yet exists and has any force or intelligence. So that is a challenge that Socrates picks up. So what great deal of argument could there be to establish that the soul exists after we die? So what we get next are three arguments, and then a very interesting discussion that we'll come to in the next video about how we know these arguments and what it would require to verify and see that these arguments are true. So for this video, though, let's just look at the arguments briefly so that we can see how they work. I set them up in kind of a structured fashion, numbered propositions, so you can have a sense of how they go. So the first one would be is called the argument from opposites. Okay? And this one goes, opposites lead to opposites. That's the way the world works. So you could put it like this: change is continuously occurring in the world, and every change involves a movement from one opposite to another. So black things disappear and become non-black or white. Dry things get wet, otherwise there's no change, and so forth. So in particular, coming to be alive involves a change from being dead to being alive. Okay? So, and maybe it's not like there's something that's being dead, but once something becomes alive, that if it became alive, that means there has to be no life before that, otherwise there was no change. So he's thinking of not being alive as being dead. And dying then would involve a change from being alive to being dead. Okay, so the argument goes, if opposites keep leading to opposites, after dying there is a change from being dead to being alive, from 1 and 2.1 and 2.2. Therefore, we live again after dying. Okay, so that's one argument that Socrates offers. I don't know what you think of it. It seems to me, even if you accept that opposites lead to opposites, and that seems to be required for change, there has to be something new there that wasn't there before. In some way, that's a not whatever it was. That seems a bit of a jump to say from being dead that you have to go to becoming alive. But we can leave that for you to think about. The second argument is a little more technical, and I call it the argument from recollection. And this goes, if learning is a process of recollection, then our souls must have existed before they came into this human form. And this is a technical idea from Plato's philosophy. And he believes that we are born already with knowledge in our souls, and that as we learn, we don't really learn anything new, but we just remember something that we have forgotten because we were born. Okay, and if that's true, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on looking into why he thinks that, because he gives reasons for that in other dialogues, that would mean that the soul pre-existed the soul in the soul-body combination. And then I guess the inference would be, well, if it pre-existed it, it's possible that it will post-exist it. That the soul is not dependent on the body, and so it will exist after it leaves our body. And the third argument, to my mind, I think this is one of the better ones, is the argument from simplicity. Everything that is non-composite, doesn't have parts, cannot fall apart, and will remain the same and in the same state. But if something is invisible, it's non-composite, and if it's the soul, it's invisible. So the soul is like deathless things and like divine things, and so it's therefore non-composite, and therefore it's natural for the body to fall apart, your corpse rotting, but for the soul to be indissoluble, to remain the same and in the same state. So basically this is arguing, by what reason would the soul disappear? It's got parts, no parts to fall apart. It can't rot. It can't go anywhere. Okay, so those are the three arguments, and I'm going to stop there to give you a chance to reconvene while we finish off this lesson and this one more piece of the dialogue of the Phaedo. Happy reading.